So Krishna consciousness is so nice. If we take me as our goal of life, then our life is successful. Otherwise, Jaya Sanamahito Jiva, Apana, Tribunamukam. We can continue the life of changing this body. That we have to do. We cannot be independent. Bhaktivedanta If we think that we are independent, that is due to our ignorance. We are not independent. He simply Sarvaita by false prestige. He is not independent at all. His Lord is the member. We are dependent on the laws of nature. We cannot say now we have invented some scientific discovery. We are not going to die. That is not possible. You must die. That is in our nature. You must die. You must take birth also. And you must be diseased. And you must suffer from old age. These are the four disadvantages of material existence. If we want to get out, this is our thought. That we will explain in the next part. Anatha vasamam saksha bhakti rupam madhukhaji lokasya janata vidyam chakre sartaka sambhita. This Srimad Bhagavatam is sartaka sambhita, is spiritual knowledge. It has nothing to do with anything material. Simply spiritual knowledge. So Vidya means they must plan it, guarantee, not ordinary. Srimad Bhagavati Mahamuni Kriti is Mahamuni. Muni means thoughtful philosopher, and he is Mahamuni. He is greater than any thoughtful philosopher. Vedavas, his name is Vedavas. Vedavas means he compiled all these Vedic literatures. And at last, he summarized the whole Vedic knowledge into Vedanta Sutra. Vedanta Sutra, a small aphorism. Dharmatasya jata patato brahmatigyasa anandamaya abhyasa. A short aphorism, and it has got very deep meaning. That is Vedanta. And this Srimad Bhagavatam is commentary of the Vedanta Sutra by the author himself, under the instruction of his Guru Narada. Therefore we began this, that according to the advice Narada Muni, that you write about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he began this Bhakti Yogena Manasi Sammat Pranite Amale Avasyak Purusham Purnam Maya Chajadada. By Bhakti Yoga, the Bhakti Yoga is also mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is Bhakti Yoga. But about Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, Hata Yoga and other yogas, there are descriptions. But at last Krishna advises that the most confidential part of knowledge, I am speaking to you, Arjuna, is Sarvadharman Puritajya Mamekam Sarva. This is real gain. So this is Bhakti Yoga. to surrender unto the Supreme Lord, that is Bhakti Yoga. So here Vasudev began his realization. Bhakti Yogena Manasi Sammak Pranite Amale. By Bhakti Yoga, you can cleanse your mind without any contamination, immediately. If you want to be liberated from the contamination of material existence or material modes of nature, then immediately you take to Bhakti Yoga. That is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. Manchabhya vicharini bhakti yogena jasevate sarvana samatitayena brahma bhuyaya kalpate. You want to realize yourself as Brahma. We are Brahma. There is no doubt about it. But we have no realization because sanmohita, jaya sanmohita, the Maya has captured us. So, immediately if you want to be liberated, mukti means mukti hitya annatha rupam. Mukti hitya annatha rupam sarupena avasthiti. This is mukti. Sarup, our sarup is our spiritual life. When we give up other activities, annatha, which is not spiritual, material activities, that is not our actual business. Actual business is spiritual activity. Material activity means this body. To keep this body in comfortable position, and the body is changing. Now, today I am Indian, I am very great Indian leader or very good philanthropist. Now, tomorrow or the next line, I may not be Indian, I may be Chinese, or I may be European. Then my whole business program changes. Again another nationality, another feeling. In this way, and if I become cats and dogs, then another mentality. This is going on. So, I am forgetting that my identification is spiritual, aham brahmasmi, and I am accepting all these unnecessary things. Anartha. Say anartha. If you want to stop this anartha, if you want to keep yourself in your original position of spiritual identity, then you have to take to Bhakti Yoga. This is the conclusion of the Shastra. Anartha upasamam saksha. Directly, not indirectly. Anartha. This anartha. I am not this body, but I have to change this body after 100 years or 10 years or 50 years. According to the size, the dogs and cats, they change 10 years, the cows 20 years, and human being at most 100 years, and the demigods many millions of years. But death is there. You have to change that body. When Hiranyakashipu executed very severe austerity, so Lord Brahma came to him. What do you want? You are executing so severe austerities. What is your desire? Now you want to become immortal. So Brahma said, that is not possible. Nobody is immortal within this material world. I am not immortal. How can I give it the benediction of immortality? That is not possible. So nobody, everyone is under the laws of nature. It may be the duration of time, maybe little more or less, but everyone must die. This is. And if we want to stop this business of material existence, then here is the recommendation. Anartha upasabhavana, anartha. Why we shall die? This question does not arise. If I am immortal, as it is said in the Bhagavad Gita, na hannate hannamani sarire, na jayate na mriyate va kadachit, nitta sasratayam na hannate hannamani. This question does not strike us, that if I am immortal, I have no birth, I have no death, na jayate mriyate va kadachit, at any time. Not that sometimes I was dying. No, never. Nitya sasatayam na hannate hannamani sarire. This is the position. Then why have I accepted this birth and death and old age disease? This is my problem. We do not think that. Neither we are educated how to stop it. But there is process. Tattadiham punarjanmanaiti mameti. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, if you simply try to understand Krishna, janma karnam cha me dibbam, jujanati tattva, not Krishna ordinarily, factually, Krishna tattva, janma karnam me dibbam, jujanati tattva, actually. In fact, in truth, then what is the result? Tattadiham punarjanmanaiti. Is this cycle of birth and days, old age is stopped. Tattadiham, we have to give up this body. That is certain. But after giving up this body, no more material body. Then what happens? Is finished? No, he's not finished. Mameti, he comes to me, back to home. And when you go there, then you must possess the same body as Krishna has got. Krishna is Satchidananda Bhikkhu. Just like if you want to enter into the sun planet, the sun planet is made of fiery elements. Everyone there, their body is made of fire. So if you want to enter into the sun planet, then you must also make your body made of fire. Just like this body is made of earth. And similarly, there are different types of bodies, made of air, made of water, made of fire. These 5 elements, material. Kiti, Ab, Tej, Marud, Bomb. So, in different planets. So, if you go back to home, back to Godhead, then you have to gain your original spiritual body. There is spiritual body. That we do not know. There is no education. We have got spiritual body. That spiritual body is covered by this material layer, just like your body is covered by satin coat. Bhashamsi jinnani jatha vihaya. Everything explained. We are simply giving up. One dress is now old and rotten, we throw it away and accept another dress. Similarly, this body, when it is not workable, it is old enough, the physiological function is not going on nicely, then there is change of body. Arjuna was advised that why you are lamenting for your old grandfather? Better kill him, he will get a new body. He will get a new body. Of course, it was spoken jokingly because grandfather. But the fact is that after the old body, just like we have got several types of body, babyhood to childhood, child to boyhood to youthhood, old body. And after this Bhashamsi jinnani jathavya, when you give up this body as dress, old and rotten, we get another. This is going on. But this is anartha. Anartha means unnecessarily we are undergoing this change of body. Anartha. If you want to stop it, anartha upasamam saksha, directly, immediately. What is that? Bhakti yogam. Anartha upasamam saksha, bhakti yogam adhokaje. And Krishna also confirmed. This is statement of Vasudev. And Krishna also says, Manchabhya vicharini bhakti yogi na jaseva sagunan samatittayitan brahma bhuviyaya. So, Bhakti Yoga, Adakhaji. This is real purpose of life. This is real purpose of religion. Sabai pungsang paro dharmo. Jato bhakti adakhaji. The same thing. That is first class religion. It doesn't matter what kind of religion you are following. But if the religious system teaches you how to become a devotee to adhokhaja, adhokhaja means beyond our sense perception, the Supreme Lord, then your life is perfect. Then you will be happy. Sabai pungsang paro dharmo jato bhakti adhokhaja. Ahoituki apratihata jayatma samprasidati. If you want satisfaction, if you want real life, then you accept this. Jato bhakti adhokhaja, here the same thing. Anartha, this business, struggle for existence, survival of the fittest, they say. But nobody is fit to survive, everyone has to die. Nobody, even big scientists or big philosophers, they cannot survive. They talk of millions of years, but personally they live only 50 or 60 years. This is their position. They simply cheat people. Maybe, perhaps millions of years, and you are going to live for 50 years, we are talking of millions of years. So, this is anartha. So, anartha upasamamsa. If we want to stop this unwanted business, if you don't want, go on with your business. Bhutta praliyate, now take this life, this body of human being or Indian, and then American, then cat, then dog, then horse, then tree. So many, 8 million. You go on if you like. But if you are actually intelligent, if you are disgusted that this is not very good business, this is anartha, unwanted business, I have been forced, jaya sarmohita, being bewildered, being illusioned, being misdirected by this material energy. I am trying to be happy here in this material energy. It is not my business. If one comes to this sense, that is stated in the book, Bahunam janmanamanti, after many births. After many births, jnanavam, one who is actually in knowledge, wise, then what does he do? Bahunam janmanamanti jnanavan maga prabhatu. He surrenders to Krishna. The same thing as Krishna said, surrender to me. If we do not do it, we have to do that. But if you want to wait, Bahunam Janma, after many births, you have to do the same business. No, why not do it now? This is intelligence. After Bahunam Janma Namante, when I actually become wise, why not become wise immediately? Krishna says, Krishna is at canvassing, why not take it up? And if you take it up, you are successful. Tattva sadanmang charanam bhajam hari. Even by sentiment you take it, you will be successful. It is so nice. So, as they recommend that anartha, this unwanted business, repetition of birth, death, old age, disease, and there is no certainty what kind of body I shall get. So this is our position. If you want to stop it, anartha upasamam, if you stop this business, bhakti yogam madakhaje. And so how to execute bhakti yogam? So lokasya janata, the people in general, they do not know it. There must be, for everything there must be education. Lokasya janata vidyan. He compiled this Srimad Bhagavatam, Vidyan Chakre Saptata Samhita. For your eternal life, here is the Samhita, Vedic literature. You take it and study it and follow it and be happy. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. That's good. Thank you. We've all listened to Srila Prabhupada, and after listening to him, there's no point in me speaking. But what we tend to do always is that we want to see whether we were actually listening or no. So this is like it's like an exam for all of us, including me. But before we start, I was just thinking that I will just recite the verse and the word to word, because the word to word is very, very important for all the verses. But this particular verse, because Prabhupada talks about this one particular word very frequently in his class. So today's class was on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 7, verse 5. So the verse is, Yaya samohito jiva atmanam tri gunatmakam paropi manute nartham tat kritam chapi patyate. And the word to word, Yaya, I will just say it, so no repetition, but I'll just say, Yaya, by whom, samohitaha, illusioned, jiva, the living entities, atmanam, self, tri guna atmakam, conditioned by the three modes of nature or a product of matter, paraha, transcendental, api, in spite of, manute, takes it for granted, anartham, things not wanted, tat, by that, kritam cha, reaction, abhipadyate, undergoes thereof. The translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Due to his external energy, the living entity, although transcendental to the three modes of material nature, thinks of himself as a material product and thus undergoes the reactions of material miseries. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatirubhascha Kripa Sindhubhevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai. Okay, so I spoke about this verse, or I repeated the verse, because in this particular class, Prabhupada is repeating the word samohita very frequently. I don't know if all of you paid attention, but he says samohita. The lecture starts with, our present position is like this, that samohita. Now, does anybody remember what does samohita mean? What is Prabhupada talking about? Bewildered. So he keeps saying that we are bewildered or we are puzzled by Maya. Right? Throughout in this is the thread actually, that we are bewildered, we are puzzled by Maya. And then Prabhupada goes on to explain that we are part and parcel of Krishna himself. But because we are bewildered by this material energy, we are thinking we are what we are not actually. Right? So we've forgotten who we are. We've forgotten what our goal is. We are completely bewildered by Maya. And because we are under the influence of Maya, all our actions also is in illusion. We are illusioned like that. So then Prabhupada goes on to talk about that we are the soul, right? And then we are in this body. We are not this body, we are the soul, we are in this body. However, we receive the particular body because of our own propensities, right? Do you remember this bit where Prabhupada says, we receive this body because of our own propensities. And then, very interesting, Prabhupada says, Krishna is so merciful. He's so merciful that he gives us what we desire. And then he gives this some analogy. A little bit he speaks about this. Does anybody remember what he talks about? The propensity and then what body we are given. Yes. So he talks about that. He talks about the tiger, that he wants to suck blood. Then he talks about the hog, the pig, that he wants to eat all kinds of things. You know, the funny thing is that how he is using the term here that Krishna is merciful. So when people say that, why this has happened to me? It is not that, Krishna is not merciful to everybody equally. He is merciful. It happened to me because I desired for it. I asked for it. Right? So he says Krishna is so merciful that he gives us this body, right? And then Prabhupada goes on to speak one verse from the Bhagavad Gita. He recites this verse. Does anybody remember which verse he's reciting, where he speaks? Sorry? No, before that. He speaks about the machine. So, 1861, Yantra Rudha in Maya. So Prabhupada is explaining that actually the soul is in this machine. This body is just a machine. But we start to identify with this particular machine. And he gives the analogy of the car. The car is moving. The car is moving because the driver is in there. The car will stop moving if the driver is not there. Likewise, as soon as the soul is out of this body, the body will stop functioning. But we fail to recognize the real me. Prabhupada talks about that the father, my son, oh, this is my father, this is my son. And when the soul departs, then where is the father? Where is the son? The body is still there. So what Prabhupada is trying to say is that you have not understood the real me at all. You've not understood the real me. So it is time that we actually start to focus on the real me. And I was just thinking that these days, modern day, we talk so much. There are workshops. Get to know the real you. Look deep inside you. We've got workshops to do that. And Prabhupada, more than 50 years ago also, he was talking the same thing. He said, know the real you. Right? Anyways, then Prabhupada says that this body is actually just made of, is made of these 5 elements, and it is under the influence of the 3 modes of material nature. All of our body that we get, he says, Karana Guna Sangasya, we get these bodies because of, there is a cause, there is a Karan, and because of that we are getting this particular body. It doesn't happen by chance. There is a reason why all this is happening, right? However, one very, very hope-giving, and the scriptures, when you actually read it and try to understand it a little bit when our acharyas are speaking, that it is very hope-giving. One doesn't have to feel hopeless. Sometimes we do, because we are conditioned and we feel that the standard of the scriptures is so high that there is no hope for me. But in this particular class and in other classes also, Srila Prabhupada and our acharyas give us so much hope. So here Prabhupada is talking about that, Krishna is saying in the Bhagavad Gita, the conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita is Sarva Dharman Paritajya Mam Ekam Sharanam Raja, right? In the Srimad Bhagavatam also it is the same thing, that if we accept Krishna. However, Krishna goes on to say, and Narad Muni says that even if you are accepting by sentiment, maybe you don't understand. maybe you don't understand Krishna, maybe you don't understand the scriptures. And, it is not possible to understand Krishna fully. It's not possible. But even if you just accept, I remember when we first started on our Krishna conscious journey, and the course that we were doing was Gita Life, and the teacher said to us, and this was his first statement, he said, theoretically accept that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and by the end of this course, because we were studying Bhagavad Gita, by the end of this course, we will prove it to you. So at least theoretically start with that. So here also, Prabhupada is saying, and Narad Muni is saying, that even out of sentiment, if you just accept this, what is the loss? There is no loss. Sometimes people say, I remember when we'd gone for one Sangha, and people were like, but what is the proof? And one of the senior devotees says, if you don't take Krishna, then we know what is going to happen. Our scriptures are telling us that. We know what life we're going to get. But if we take Krishna, then at least we know that we will be somewhere better than what we are right now. Now the thing is, you are being given these two options. What is the harm if you go with the better option? Even if you don't fully believe it, even if you don't fully understand it. So here also Narad Muni is saying that in spiritual life, even if you don't reach the final destination, it's not like that you've reached halfway, so that is a waste of time. Like Prabhupada always used to give this in his classes, that in material life, let's take the example of a child going to school. If he does not complete his A-levels and whatever, he does not get the qualification. He does not get the certificate that he's done his A-level. However, in spiritual life, it is not that if you've not completed, there is a loss. You've started somewhere. You've reached somewhere. In your next life, you will not start from zero. In material life, you have to go back and start from zero, no matter what you've achieved in your previous life. So Narad Muni is talking about that what is the loss if you take to it, right? There is no loss. Even if you fall down, there is no loss. However, if you don't take to Krishna consciousness, what is the big loss? What happens if you don't take to Krishna consciousness? You come back again, and Prabhupada says this very nicely. He says, you come back to the first chapter. So it's not like that you've done till 8 chapters and you've learned everything, so let me just start from the 9th chapter. No, it doesn't work like that. You come back and you start again from the first chapter. Right? That's how material life is. And then he goes on to talk about again and again he speaks about Karanam Gunasanga. So, what body are we going to get? What is it based on? Next life? Sorry? Desire. What else? Prabhupada says something else. Sorry? Propensities. How do we develop these propensities? How do we develop propensities? Practicing because of association. And Prabhupada gives this analogy of the association. Very, very, very good analogy. We'll never forget it. Disease. He talks about a disease. If we contact a germ, a contamination, if a mosquito bites you, which is carrying the malaria virus or whatever, you will get that disease. So, our propensities are developed by the association that we keep, right? If we have a particular type of association, we will develop that. And we notice that in all of our lives, we notice that. It is only after for most of us, coming to the temple, probably being given a book by somebody like Sadanandini Mataji, who is so into book distribution. Maybe somebody was merciful to us, given us a book. Maybe we read something. Maybe we associated with somebody. Ask the question, what is life? What am I doing? So it is with association. If we were out on the streets, just generally never really questioning, just taking life as it comes one day, and living it and saying, doesn't matter, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, so why think about it? We would probably have never even thought of this, and we wouldn't be sitting over here. So the propensities that we develop Yes, it is because of our desires, it is because of our past lives, it is because of the association. And the analogy that Prabhupada is giving is that if you contact a germ, if you have a virus, obviously you will get that disease, right? Nature's law is very strict. Nature does not discriminate. Nature does not say that, oh, but it was not his fault. He didn't want to do it. He didn't want to be bitten by a mosquito. He got bitten. It's not his fault. So Prabhupada talks about you take precautions, right? You take precautions that you don't fall ill. You try and, wherever you go, you try and have safe drinking water, safe food. If you know that you're going to a place where there'll be mosquitoes, all of you, I'm sure, when you go travel to India, wherever, you take all your mosquito repellent and mosquito nets. Everybody's taking precautions. We're taking precautions so much for our material life, but we forget, and that is what Prabhupada is talking about in this particular lecture, that we forget the real you. We are not protecting our soul, right? We are not protecting our soul. So, again, Prabhupada uses this word samohito, because we are so bewildered, because we are so illusioned, we forget the real you, right? We tend to think that we are independent, that we are doing everything independently. And in this lecture, Prabhupada recites the verse, Bhagavad Gita 3.27. Most of you might know this verse, very well-known verse. Anybody knows and anybody would like to recite for all of us? 3.27. Not amongst yourself. Recite it loudly. Come on, Prabhu. Brilliant, thank you. So, we think that we are independent, but we are not independent for even a fraction of a second. We are always under the influence of the modes of material nature, and we are acting under that influence. We may think that we are independent, but we are not independent at all. If we think like that, then we are samohita, which is we are bewildered, we are illusioned because of our false ego and our false prestige, right? Prabhupada gives this example that he says that, and I will just quote this from the lecture. He says, Prabhupada says, we cannot say, now I invented some scientific discovery, we shall not die. That is not possible. That is just not possible. You may think like that, but the laws of nature wherein there is birth, old age, disease and death is constantly going on. This cycle is constantly going on. So then Prabhupada says, but then if we are eternal, if we are not meant to take birth and die, and we are caught in this cycle, why are we not questioning why are we caught in this cycle? That is the intelligence. That we question this. We ask why. And this kind of questioning, this kind of understanding, or this kind of intelligence is given to us by scriptures. Scriptures like the Srimad Bhagavatam, which has been written by, and then Prabhupada goes on to glorify Srila Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva, he says he is Mahamuni. He's written this brilliant Srimad Bhagavatam, this brilliant scriptures after complete maturity of his spiritual journey. He's written the Srimad Bhagavatam, and it is this knowledge, Vidvan, it is this information which actually will give us the understanding, the intelligence of how, although we are eternal or we are souls, why we are caught in this cycle and how we can break out of this cycle of birth, old age, disease and death. So, Prabhupada says that Bhagavad Gita is giving us this most confidential knowledge of sarva dharman paritajya, but then the important point is how. How do we do that? And that is explained actually today we are reading, today the lecture was from 1.7.5. In the previous verse, 1.7.4, and I will just read a couple of lines of that verse. It says, Bhakti Yogena Manasi. By your intelligence, if you take to Bhakti Yoga and if you understand that Bhakti Yoga is the only process that you can break out of this cycle, then you will come to this understanding that I need to surrender to Krishna. Like that. Okay? Then Prabhupada says, very nice in this one verse, he says that you want to realize yourself as Brahman, but you are actually. But you want to realize. And how will you realize that? The conclusion of the Shastra is that I want to realize that I am eternal. I want to break out of this cycle. I want to get mukti. And then Prabhupada says, what is mukti? Do you remember what is mukti? Sorry? Yes, Prabhupada says that. So, mukti is that when we actually understand our swarupa, our spiritual identity. When we know that I'm not this material body, I am spirit soul. And when we understand this, that I'm the spirit body. So what are my spiritual activities? Right now, I'm entangled. I'm illusioned by the material world, by Maya, and I'm entangled in these material activities. So what are the spiritual activities? Because material activity is not the actual business. Actual business is spiritual activity, right? So Prabhupada says that. He says that I am not this body, but I am changing bodies. I have changed so many bodies in the past and I am changing bodies. And then he gives the example of Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu performs austerities and he asks Lord Brahma that I want to become immortal. And what does Lord Brahma says? He says, I am not immortal. How can I give you that boon? All of us also, we are caught in this body. We will continue to get so many different material bodies unless we put a stop to it. And Prabhupada is telling us how we can put a stop to it. We all are under the influence of the material nature. And he recites this verse he recites the verse from Bhagavad Gita 2.20. Na hanyate hanyamane sharire. Yes, we are eternal. But right now, we are in this body. And this body is not eternal. It is the soul that is eternal. Right? And that is why we are constantly accepting this birth, old age, disease and death. But there is a way of stopping this process. And then Prabhupada recites this very famous verse from the Bhagavad Gita, verse 4.9. 4.9? Please recite it, Prabhu, if you know it. Evam yo veti tatvata. So, we are being given this process by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, and of course Prabhupada says, if you understand Bhagavad Gita, you understand everything, and the Srimad Bhagavatam only goes on to elaborate on what we have to do. So here it says that you can break out of this cycle, Janma Karma, if you understand me, you will come to me. When you come to me, you will get the spiritual body just like Krishna's. In the class Prabhupada says, in this lecture, he says, you will get a body just like Krishna's, right? Yeah. Okay. And then Prabhupada goes on to explain something more about, we spoke about the propensity. And he says that just like if you want to enter into the sun planet is made of fiery elements. So you will get a body like that. Because you've chosen to come to this material world, your body is made of the 5 elements, earth, water, fire, whatever. So according to what we are desiring, according to the propensities that we have developed, we will get that body. So Prabhupada says, if you go back home, back to Godhead, then you have to gain your original spiritual body. Right? Yeah. And then he talks about how we give up the old body and we get the new body. And Prabhupada talks about the grandfather where, he says, jokingly it is being said, why are you lamenting? This body is old, your grandfather's body is old. So he will get a new body. So don't worry about that. Anyways, then he goes on to elaborate, Prabhupada goes on to elaborate, what is the real purpose of life? The real purpose of life is how to become a devotee. How to become a devotee of Krishna, how to understand that I am not this body, this is just the machine, the body, the real me is the soul. And I have to somehow or the other try, in association with my desires, with my activities, develop in such a way that at least, probably not in this lifetime, maybe, I don't know, but with Prabhupada's mercy, maybe in this lifetime or in the next lifetimes, at least we are progressing towards getting a spiritual body. So in summary, today's class was actually talking about understanding the real you, right? I'll just in a couple of points we'll just discuss today's class. So, understanding the real you, understand the nature's law. You are under the modes of material nature. Nature's law will act on you. So there is birth, old age, disease, and death for the body, not for the soul, because the soul is the real you. Once you've understood that, okay, this is the real me, then what am I doing next? The next step is that I surrender to Krishna. I surrender to the process of Krishna consciousness. Then this class goes on to say, how do we surrender to Krishna? The only way that you can surrender to Krishna is by devotional service, by taking to bhakti. Yeah, Prabhupada in the lecture says that Bhagavad Gita talks about the other yogas also, Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga and everything. But the final goal is Bhakti Yoga, that you surrender to me. Then Prabhupada also says that after many, 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 many births, one is given this opportunity. One is given this good fortune. By Srila Prabhupada's mercy, all of us have got this good fortune that we are given a conducive atmosphere to associate with devotees, to associate with the Lord here and to perform Bhakti Yoga. So, if we take to Krishna consciousness, then we are on the right path. We don't know how many lifetimes it may take, but at least we are on the right path, the path to achieving the goal, which is to surrender to Krishna. So I'll stop here now. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki, Jai Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Jai.